morning, everybody. This is Robert here, Mr. Robert, out here with Howard and Shasta at Never a Dull Moment. It's been a while since we've done one of these antique tool videos, but we're taking a little time this morning just to get started before we start sharpening saw blades. We've had quite a few blades come in here lately. We've been a little busy, but Howard's been carrying all the load. He's been doing all the cleaning, setting, and sharpening because me and Mama decided we'd take us a little trip. We went out to Alaska for a couple of weeks. I highly recommend that if anybody has that on their bucket list to do, that is a fantastic trip. But what you might want to do before you go is go out there in the back somewhere or wherever you got it hid in a barrel or something and dig up some of that old money because it's pretty expensive out there. Well, anyway, back to the old tools this morning. I just wanted to do something here about woodworking today. Something that my granddaddy did. Both of my grandfathers on my mother's and my daddy's side, they both did this, and they cut logs down in the. We live in South Mississippi, and there's a lot of rivers and swamps and all around here, and then there was a lot of old growth timber. And what these folks did, they'd go in the woods and in the swamp, and they cut down these big cypress trees and these big old virgin pines, and they'd get them to the river, and they'd make rafts with them, and they'd float them down the river. Down here on the Escatawba River and the Pascagoula River, where I grew up, at one time there were 7 sawmills down there. The most famous one of them, I guess, being the Datzler sawmill. That's a big name in our area where we come from, but there was McIntosh Mill, Datzler Mill, and I can't remember the names of all the rest of them, but there were 7 sawmills. And what they would do is cut these logs and get them to the river, and they would raft them together. This spike here is a spike that they would drive into the logs, run a rope or cable around it, and they would put them all together, and they'd float them down the river with the current. Here's a different type that they would use that they would put over to the side to run ropes across the top to bind them in. As they were going down the river, they would have men riding that raft of logs, and they would have what they called a jam pole hook. It's this instrument right here. This one happened to be my granddaddy's, and you can see where he stuck it in a log, and the current pushed him, and it kind of twisted the end a little bit. And what this would do, they could take this and push off of the bank, or they could reach out there with this hook and grab and pull something with it. It's called a jam pole hook. And they would usually have this on a little young cypress tree, a little thin, slender one, about 12, 15 foot long, and that's what they would use. I have got this from my grandmother that was in the old brooder house that they had, and when I was a kid I got it, but I have put it on a piece of bamboo, and I lived in Gatlinburg, Tennessee for years, and what I did was I used this for my hiking pole. I kind of felt it was kind of light with this bamboo, and I kind of felt a little protected if I run across a bear or somebody that wasn't too friendly. That never happened. Everything went off great. But that's what these 3 instruments are: the jam pole hook, and these where you drive into the logs and raft all the logs together. At different times of the year, spring of the year, when we'd have a lot of rain and the water would come up, some of these logs would get loose from the raft, and they would float out into the woods. Well, when the water would go down, it'd be kind of messy out there. You couldn't get the log back to the river. So what my granddaddy would do, he'd find these logs that were out in the woods, not too far from the river, but jammed in there. He'd take a crosscut saw, go up there and cut them off in blocks about that long. The tree would be 8, 10 foot in diameter, just laying out there in the woods. Well, he'd saw it off into blocks about this long. And you could take that block and roll it through the trees to the river. And my daddy has told me that when he was a kid, when they get that entire log sawed up, they'd tie it together, and him and his brother would swim down the river with this raft of blocks of that one log, and they'd get it to the landing down there, and they'd take it out, and they'd put it on a wagon or something, whatever they had, and they would haul it home. And a lot of you old timers out there will know what this instrument is. It's a froe. And what this is used for is you take that block and you split it, and then you take this froe and put in there, and you take a hammer like this and you hit that, and then you twist it and it will split off. They called it riving shingles. You'd rive these shingles like you put on a house or a barn or something, these cypress shingles. And that's what my granddaddy did. He did everything he could to make a living for his family. This is the hammer that he used, and this was his froe. I don't know if you can see it or not, but right there in that, carved into that old hammer, is a W for Westfall. That was my granddaddy's. And on the handle of this one is a W. You can see that W right there on the handle of that hammer. Well, this is just a couple of old tools that we had out here pertaining to woodworking today. We thought we'd kind of get back to that a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you like it, please like and subscribe to our channel at Never a Dull Moment with Mr. Robert and Howard. We thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and y'all have a great day.